Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So, stay with us as right now we present. Today we feature a wonderful gal by the name of Vicky McGrath, and she is a psychic medium and a channel. She does all kinds of wonderful stuff. And first of all, I got to ask you, what do you think of the new opening?
It was great. Yeah, very fun and lively and upbeat, which is nice.
And short.
And short.
So that people can find out one of the things that we've been toying with is that we want people to be able to get into the meat of what we're going to talk about earlier so that they'll hang a little bit with us if they're interested in the material that we have to present.
Great.
And so this is what we're doing today. And like I said, Vicky is a great psychic medium. She's got a class coming up that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about spirit guides today. So I hope everybody stays with us. If you have an understanding or a wish to have an understanding of what a spirit guide is and why they're important in our lives and how they can help us kind of, they have the 50,000 foot view, so they can kind of guide us through the forest to get to where we want to go. And is that an appropriate way to begin?
I think that's awesome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here. I just love the work that you do. First of all, I want to make sure everybody understands that this is not woo-woo. This is not out there kind of stuff. Basically, this is just energy. And since we all are energetic beings in a body, and the people on the other side are energetic beings without a physical body, we have the ability to communicate. And some of us have used that muscle to a great degree. So they have refined the skills to be able to connect and to work with the other side, where a lot of us go, I don't know. But you've refined your gifts. So, and it's like a muscle, like anything else. You're able to touch people and you're able to touch spirit guides on the other side and bring the folks together. Am I representing that reasonably well?
I think that sounds fine. For me, as we've talked in previous discussions, I had a spontaneous spiritual awakening in December of 2020. And prior to that, I had no idea about the spirit world or mediumship or any of those things. I literally had never seen a ghost or had had an understanding of spirit guides at all. So I'm a relative newbie to this. So any of your audience that's listening and thinks, oh, these people, they know so much, they've been doing this their whole lives, don't feel that way. That's not true at all. And I just love to share now how basically channeling what I call multidimensional beings, because as I'll talk about today, they represent or present to me in so many different ways. It's another opportunity to have communication beyond what we could possibly know as humans in this human existence. And that's what I love about mediumship, is just that I get to communicate with beings that I have had no idea were there. And they tell me fabulous things about my clients and give my clients hope and motivation and purpose that they're traveling the path that they're meant to travel in this life.
So tell us, what happened in 2020?
Well, as I like to say, in 2020, earlier on in 2020, I was suffering with a lot of anxiety and negative thinking. And I decided that I didn't want to travel that path. I was feeling very, very low and very, very badly. And so I began to research ways to change my mindset and create a more positive mindset for myself, which I did through primarily starting out with Dana Wild's material, she wrote a book, Train Your Brain. She has a podcast, Positive Mindset for Entrepreneurs. She has a daily newsletter. She has lots of great resources available for training your brain to basically recognize and become aware of your negative thinking, and then replace the negative thoughts with more positive thoughts until basically you've drowned out, for lack of a better word, the negative feelings, the negative thoughts, the negative behaviors, so that you can move forward feeling positive and motivated and excited about life, as opposed to just living on repeat the same thoughts day in and day out. And what I found after I began that process was that as I felt better and my frequency or vibration raised, all of a sudden I felt inspired to do things that I wouldn't normally do and take actions that I wouldn't normally take. And among those was to sign up for a free 5-day summit on Facebook called Practical Magic. I have no idea. It was totally divine intervention. Otherwise, never in my life have I ever thought about anything being magical. I've read and watched Harry Potter, but it wasn't really part of my life. And so when I participated in that Practical Magic workshop, it's put on by a mother-daughter duo. Michelle Lee and Megan Camille are the mother-daughter, and they have a mystery school, the Sophia Mystery School, and they put on this free workshop where it was, multiple speakers, a typical summit that you attend. And at that summit, I just had the spontaneous awakening. I began to channel, I began to visualize, I began to see things that I had never seen or known about before. And all of a sudden, all of my clairs were open. I was getting, all kinds of clair downloads, information and things that I could never have possibly known before just started flooding into my consciousness. And that was really the beginning for me. It was just so powerful and so amazing and so exciting. And everything that came through was wonderful. It was love. It was joy. It was peace. It was fun. It was magic. It was wisdom. There was nothing scary. There was nothing that frightened me. There was nothing about it at all that was anything other than just pure love. And so that just got me so excited. And that's where my journey began. I just went crazy with the spiritual development, taking classes and becoming a medium and becoming a certified life purpose medium and getting into teaching mediumship. So I'm just so excited now that I've discovered this life path and helping others to also, open up to their own spiritual gifts. Every one of us is a medium. Every single one of us has these innate gifts. It's just opening to them and feeling the love and joy that comes along with them.
Did you ever stop to say to yourself, why me? Or did you ever ask them, why me?
Well, from what I understand, through learning and researching and so on, is that before we come into this life, we kind of meet with our spirit team, and we come up with a plan for our life, to what we want to accomplish. And it's kind of set out about 80%, I think, is kind of the ratio. 80% set out to what is wanted to accomplish in this lifetime, what your soul purpose is or your life path is for this life, and the things that you're meant to achieve. And 20% is free will. So you can kind of go off course about 20% of the time, but then other 80% of the time, you're being guided, whether you realize it or not. And when you've gone really far off track, something dramatic might happen that will essentially knock you back onto track. And that's really what I kind of feel like that low energy, negative vibe I had really fallen into, that was really far off track. And maybe my life before that was still on track, doing whatever I wanted to do, to fulfill my life purpose. It didn't necessarily mean having my spiritual guides visible to me, but whatever I was doing prior to that was working enough. It was the 80% versus the 20%. And then I think probably what happened was that I just got too far off the rails. And that's when I, was given that little seed. Okay, sign up for this practical magic training and get back on track, girl. So that's kind of what I feel from my research is what happens. We're we're all here. We choose our parents. We choose the life that we've we enter into for reasons. There's learning in absolutely everything that we're here for and to accomplish, and then we take that learning and move on to our next life and bring forward the things that we learn and keep progressing on our path from there.
It's interesting that I think everybody at one point or another feels like, there isn't enough. Why am I really here? And they really want to understand that. But not very many of us turn in that direction. Some of us pray and some of us will maybe meditate, but a lot of us don't listen to what's actually happening around us and have faith and trust that what you're being told is actually real and genuine. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think that's very true. And I would say that as children, we are genuinely, innately creative and probably have a lot of our gifts open right from the beginning. But through the course of our lives, we're told, you have a wild imagination, or that's not really real, or that's just fantasy. And so over time, we just kind of suppress all of our gifts to fit into our families, into society, into our job, wherever we are. We don't want our teachers to think we're silly. We don't want our friends to think we're silly. So we just kind of suppress everything to fit in. And so although it may seem like, we're not really, we don't always have these gifts, I feel like we really all do start out with them. It's just that through programming of our family, of our community, of the trajectory of our life, we shut down our gifts, or maybe something scary happened that you weren't prepared for, or that you didn't have the training for, or you didn't have anybody to ask about. And so, as I go about my day now, spontaneously, as I'm walking around my community or whatever, I notice, if a child has a spirit guide, they'll pop out and they'll reveal themselves to me. And so now I kind of walk around and I smile and I giggle to myself because I see that spirit guide, there guiding that child. And so I feel like that's really the way it is, that we start out with having all of our gifts and we just generally shut them down. And some people never do. Some people, the psychics and the clairvoyants that are working on this their whole lives, some people never shut down their gifts, and they can help a lot of people over the course of time. Both Michelle Lee and Megan Camille, who did the Practical Magic workshop, are that way. They've both been open their whole lives. But I think for the most part, we just don't really know what's happening. And so we don't really listen to it because we don't trust it. We don't know what it's trying to tell us, and we don't know how to use what it's telling us to move forward on our life, because we probably don't even really know what our true life purpose is.
Well, and that's a big problem that most of us have no earthly idea, and we stumble through it. But at the same time, I'd say a real quick story. When my youngest son was 4 years old, and he and my wife at the time were having a conversation, and she was telling him, I think he'd done something, which he did something wrong. and
he was 4.
He was 4. That's what happens. And he turned to her and said, well, last time when I was the mom, but since that time, so at that moment, he had a belief that he had seen something, or believed that at one point in another lifetime that he was a mom and she was his son. And but then over time that went away, and he just
Wow.
lost it, and it's all gone now. And he doesn't believe. He thinks some of the people that I talk to are just nuts. But I'm trying to get him to understand a little bit more, but he'll pick it up as he gets into his 40s and 50s and 60s, I think. I hope.
Well,
So,
I think that, that's because, there's nobody does anything generally to be mean. Everything that we say to each other, our children, is meant to be well-meaning, to be well-intentioned, and so, what happened to him was that your response to that, that point that he made was probably like, whoa, right? Right? You were probably taken aback, and he probably got frightened by that response and thought, okay, I better not talk about that anymore, right? And I think that's really what happens. And in Buddhist philosophy, we are all each other's mother, child. Just we're all the same being ultimately. There's only one being in the entire universe, the divine one, and we've all just reincarnated as each other's mother and child over millennial. So for him to recognize that that's exactly what it is. He just remembered in a past life that he was in fact the mom. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is that in Buddhist philosophy, as you are right, I read a book in 2001 when I kind of had my epiphany and my awakening, and it was called Conversations with God, and it was by Neil Donald Walsh, who I highly recommend that book. And if you would like to find out a little bit more about why we're really here and who we really are and so forth. And one of the things that he said, and I came across it, and I never had I was 41, I'd never heard this before. And at one point, God said to Neil, if you believe that sort of thing, he said, we are all one. And if you look at the concept of we are all one, it's a very simple concept, but it's also a very complicated concept. Because if we are all one, then why are we shooting each other? Why are we being mean to each other? Why aren't we being kind to one another? Because we're all the same. We all come from the same place, exactly what you just said. And so it really is important that we look at it that way, because that's really how it is. And we're not disconnected from each other. We are all each other's keeper. And I think somebody said that in the Bible, as a matter of fact. We need to take care of each other and stuff like that. So it really is important. But we are going to talk about today. How's that for a segue?
It actually is. What you're talking about is a great segue, because really the reason why we get so off track, the 20% or whatever it is, off track of our life, is because we don't know that we're being guided, right? We don't know that we really do have a divine purpose in this life, and to the point of people doing things that we don't agree with. That's just part of their experience. It's just experience, and it's just this lifetime, and then they learn from it and they move on to the next lifetime, and hopefully they're not doing that anymore. But I think in what you were about to say is if we know that we are guided and that we have a purpose, and that we know especially that we have spirit guides in our lives all the time, telling us, things and how to be and how to do things. I think that would help a lot of people understand why things happen the way they happen, and to trust and believe that that everything is for the highest good, and that they can choose to be the conscious creators along with their spirit guides, as opposed to just following along with the path of their life trajectory that as it has been to date.
I agree 100%. As a matter of fact, I have a group. I have a boardroom, and I've got this group that sits around the boardroom, and they are plotting and planning every moment of my life to try and steer me in the right direction, so that I fulfill the destiny that I wanted to create for myself. And that's in my world, that's their job, is to help me fulfill my own destiny, which before I was born, I came here and said, this time around, I think I'd like to do this, and I'd like to be part of that. And one of that is to help people, to be kind, to be generous, and to be, to really work to help people. And they are, it's almost like, like you have a picture in your mind. It's like they've got this, they're in this boardroom, and there's a picture of a moving picture in the middle of the boardroom, and each of them are contributing ideas and thoughts and ways of of moving me forward. And then there are other people like your guides show up and say, well, Vicky is doing this, and we'll bring them together, and we'll do, you know what I mean? Is that how it works at all?
Well, it works. It works individually and uniquely for every single being, surprisingly enough. But I think what we understand once we realize that we have spirit guides is that there is a team guiding us, right? There is a team, and for me, the way they present for me is unique to how they would present to you. And I think the value of once that you have those spirit guides and that they're communicating to you all the time, and that they're communicating with others' guides. This is the whole thing that I do when I'm channeling, as my mediumship. I'm not the one talking. I'm not the one giving the information, right? My guides connect with my clients' guides, and together they connect, and then that's what flows through me and comes out of my mouth is what they are showing me. Now, for me, a lot of mine is what it sounds like for you. Mine is very visual. I get pictures. I get very clear pictures of exactly what is happening, who's there, what they're saying, and it's very visual for me. Other people, they get voices, or they get feelings. So everybody's different. But as I think once you recognize that that's what it is, then that's when you can really benefit from their guidance.
I gotta ask you, because I've been dying to ask somebody, and I gotta ask you, because this recently happened, and I believe that it was from the divine. And let me explain. I started Positive Talk Radio back in 2003. I've been doing it off and on for the last 20 years, with a break to drive a bus for 12 years. And because I was always trying to get money enough to be able to do it, because it costs money to do this, and to be on KKNW, and to do all the things that I'm doing that are very important to me. And so not too long ago, back in the spring, now I just turned 65, September 11th. So I just turned 65.
Happy birthday.
I thank you very much. and I get this notice from a company that I worked for 20 years ago. And they said, you're turning 65 and you've got a pension coming. I had no earthly idea that was even possible. I did not know that there was a pension that even existed at that time, or any of that stuff. And so I just, I put it aside and said, okay, great. It's probably $20 or whatever it is. And so in August, I get this packet. And this packet says, well, here are your options, and this is what you can do, and of your pension. And so I looked at the number, and I almost fell out of my chair, because it was a significant number that I had no idea was even coming. And it was like a divine thing, like it was set up 20 years ago, because I left that company to start doing the radio. So it was like set up 20 years ago for it to happen, so that it could come to play now. And can I ask you, was that by divine planning and guidance?
Oh, I believe so. We never know how long something is going to take to manifest, right? We really don't. We put the intention or the energy out there in the form of our thoughts, right? Like that's really how it works. We think, I would really like to start a radio show, or I'd really like to start a podcast, or I'd really like to write a book, or I'd really like to start my own business, or I'd really like to travel the world, or whatever it is. We put the intention out there, and we can follow the sparkly breadcrumbs that are left for us, right? Or we can ignore them, and kapowie, it happens 20 years later, right? You just don't know. At some point, something happened where you allowed that to come in, and I can't predict when that's going to happen for anybody. I can just tell them what I see when they when they're working with me. But I believe that that's true. I believe that we put these intentions out there, and that as long as we're alive, everything we put out there that we want in our lives will happen, and we can just really just kind of expect it to happen. Just assume that it's a cosmic order, right? Okay, divine one, that's my cosmic order, and I'll see it when I see it.
Now, do you talk to them like that? Because I do. I talk to them like that all the
I
time.
do.
It's
And I write them letters. Okay, dear cosmic God.
it's like when I got this packet and I started laughing, and then I of course looked up, because that's where you look.
Yep.
And I looked up and said, you guys are too comical.
You guys are the
Because
best.
you guys are amazing, because
Yeah.
I took that intention out 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But the
And
timing
that's happened so much. That's happened for me. This is totally off topic, but in 1999, I went to Hawaii to get married because I wanted to go and watch the Ironman World Championships triathlon in Kona, Hawaii. So I orchestrated my wedding to be around that time frame so that my fiance at the time and I could watch the race. And it was fantastic. I was there for 14 hours watching the athletes swim, bike, and run across the Kona landscape. And I said at that, I don't know whether it was to Jeff, my husband, or to myself, but I said, I am doing this race one day. I am doing this race one day. And when you know it, in 2021, they offered me a slot.
Wow.
22 years later, right? They offered me a slot. Now, I have taken action. I have done triathlon ever since then. I've done a few Ironmans, but that, I never in a million years would have imagined that would ever come to fruition. I thought I would have to outlive the competition.
And by the way, they should call it an Iron Woman, by the way.
Yes, that debate continues. But it's just true. What you're saying is that it is divine. It really is the divine delivering on the things that you want in your life, because the things that they deliver on are the things that are going to move you forward on your path. I think that's really key, right? So even if it takes 20 years or 20 or more than 20 years, if it continues to contribute to your path forward and continues to give you the hope and the motivation to achieve your life purpose, then that's really what they want, right? They just want you to do what you're here to do, and they want to support you doing it.
I have maybe 10 or 15 stories, just like the one I just told, of that where it has been by divine guidance that things just magically lined up the way they were supposed to line up. Does that mean that I didn't? I mean, I had a period of time when my life was a bad country music song. My dad died, my dog died, I lost my house, my wife left, and all that stuff. But overall, everything lined up so that I could do what I'm doing today and talking to you today, which is the most important conversation that we're going to have at this moment.
Right. Exactly. And that's exactly it. All of the things that have occurred in our lives, whether they be perceived as good or bad, are just lessons that we can use and take to move forward.
And I believe that we are the sum total of our experiences. And the reason we have these experiences is so that as we accumulate them and learn from them as we keep going, then we develop who we really are, if we choose to.
Right.
So it really is cool. So I appreciate that. But we were going to, I'm going to get to this subject, I promise. We were going to
talk. We got lots of time.
Yes, we do. We were going to talk about the 6 reasons why you should listen to your spirit guides. Is that framed it right?
That's right. Yeah. So, do we want to quickly talk about, who spirit guides might be?
Yes.
Because you had kind of mentioned that, you had thought, maybe that might be a good framework for the discussion.
Yeah. Because some people would say a spirit guide is, or your guardian angel, or your angel, and are they all the same? Are they all different? Are they, from my standpoint, I believe that they are the same, but they have a different level of expertise in what they're doing. But I don't know that to be true either, because I'm not there. I'm still here. So I I have too many till I
Yes,
get there to
partly at
figure it out.
least. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So so
Well,
what are they? Describe them for us.
yeah, I think you're probably right on. They're all of the above. When I'm channeling my own team, they are primarily of the elemental realm. So I channel my team is unicorns, wizards, uh, fairies, dragons, elves, animals, uh, spells, angels. Like my team is all of that, and so when I'm helping, with other people with readings around their spirit guides, who I see come in. Uh, they show up in all different ways. I've had angels, I've had pirates, I've had rabbits, I've had, they are what's meaningful to the human, right? And that's the bottom line. But I do believe that they have different functions, or different supports, or different levels of support for their human. I also have a Pegasus, and the Pegasus for me shows up when I am going to need some courage. That is my spirit guide for courage. The unicorn shows up when it's time for me to lighten up and have a little fun. The fairy shows up when I need to, create a little magic in my life, and the wizard is kind of like my guiding star. The wizard is always the kind of the wisdom. And so when I'm channeling other people's guides, and they show up in the ways that uh, they show up that way because there's something that the person can interpret about their life. For example, one time I was channeling a spirit guide who turned out to be an angel. And the angel was telling me, channeling through me, uh, every imaginable detail of this individual's life as a child, like the fun things that she loved to do as a child, in so much detail. She just said to me that, this is exactly what that angel was talking about, and these are the things that I did with my mom. And so they have different functions, and I believe the angels are probably super high level, and probably have super high powers, and then different, but they're all different realms. And that's what I love about it, is that I'm primarily channel the elemental realm, which I didn't even know existed. I channel mermaids and merfolk, and like things that you never know about except in books or fantasy land, right? So I think that the value of knowing that it's all okay, and it's really just what's meaningful to each individual, and then we can extrapolate or interpret how it's meaningful to us, and what that interdimensional or multidimensional being represents to us and brings to us and to our lives.
And they're not all that serious about it either, are they?
Definitely not. And that's why I say, I've never had anything but wonderment, joy, you know, uh, and I do connect with other people who have different experiences than that, who have had negative or frightening experiences to that. And I would say, that is perhaps about a level of vibration that they're currently experiencing, right? That's why it was so important for me to first get to that higher level of vibration before I could open up to my gifts. Because at the lower level of vibration, something scary might have happened, and I would not want to do anything further with it, right?
Is it true that, well, let me ask you. Um, okay, I just did. Is it true that operating at a lower vibration does not allow you, because the folks on the other side operate at a much higher vibrational level than we do. because we're in a body and we're kind of, it's kind of slow and stuff. But they operate at a higher vibration. So in order to, when you had your epiphany, in order for you to reach your gifts, you had to raise your vibration, and then your guides kind of lowered their vibration so you could meet in the middle. Is that
That's how I've been told as well. But there are people who have who are in a low state and who have a negative experience, right? They experience paranormal beings or multidimensional beings or extraterrestrial beings, and it's frightening for them. So I think it's about the vibrational match more than it's about having to be at the high vibration. So if you're open to experiencing multidimensional beings, you might experience lower level multidimensional beings and be frightened, like ghosts or beings that have not transitioned through their whatever it is that they have to do to get on into the next lifetime. But I think for me, the raising of the vibration was necessary for me to be open to my gifts and guides as they wanted me to have them. And I think that's the key piece there, is that for me, that's what had to happen for me. It might not be what happens for everybody, but I really do encourage my clients to work on their vibration, and in order to be open to the guidance that they're getting all the time. And that will allow them to have those fun, joyful experiences and be playful and hopeful about it, as opposed to being frightened off, right?
Oh, exactly. Now, I don't know if this happens for you, but I had a good friend of mine who was a psychic medium, and we've done hundreds of readings together on the air and elsewhere. And I had a disclaimer that I would say at the beginning of the show, which is, we want you to call because we want your loved ones to come through. However, if you're going to test her abilities and you're going to be closed to the process, then do not bother to call, because nothing is going to happen. Does that work in your world too?
Well, actually, no. But what happens if I'm, if I'm doing a reading on a skeptic, as I call them,
Yeah.
I will get loved ones that they don't know. And then it's difficult for them to verify or validate, right? Because they're skeptical, they don't want to believe. So then they don't want to know who it is that's coming through, right? So I might just be getting, being after being, loved one after loved one, trying and trying and trying to say, we're here, we're here, we're here, we're here, we're here. We love you. We want you to know that we're here. And the person will just say, I didn't really know my dad's family that well, or I didn't really know my mom that well, or, I never really knew my mom's parents, like it's just, that's what happens. That for me, I still get their loved ones coming through. I still get their, the idea that they're supported and loved, and that they can really feel hopeful and positive about their lives, but they don't want to know. They just deny that they don't know who it is that's coming through.
Exactly. By the way, we are talking with Vicky McGrath, and go to vickymcgrath.ca, because she's like in Canada.
CA, eh?
So CA, so it's vickymcgrath.ca. And Vicky, the interesting thing is that in our lives, we tend to lose people as we go along. And the older you get, doggone it, this getting old stuff sucks, because people keep dying. Actors.
Well, that's because they choose, right? If you look at the reality is that the body really doesn't have to die as early as we want it, or as we let it. We give up. We lose hope. we aren't guided. We don't have our spiritual guides helping us, right? So some people leave because their job is done, because their mission is accomplished. What they wanted to achieve in this life has been achieved. Some people want to achieve sickness and death and illness and violence and trauma, and that's part of their learning curve. So, and some people are leaving now because they aren't interested in the higher vibes, or the new dimensions, or the new 5D reality, or whatever, the ascension process, or whatever it is that you want to call it, that kind of us spiritual folk talk about. But I like to interrupt whenever people say, we all die. We do all die, of course we do, but I don't ever want anyone to think to themselves, oh, I'm getting old, I'm going to die, because that's just it's the energy you're putting out there. It's the intention you're putting out there, right?
Yep. Well, the way I look at it is, and you're familiar with John Edward, I would assume. And I've had him on the show before, and he is also an amazing guy. I just see, my first car was a 1967 Fury 3 Plymouth. I had that car for a dozen years, and I liked that car and stuff, but it finally gave up the ghost and died. Well, I have no idea where that car is today, and I just went and got into another car. So I didn't die, my car did. And that's kind of how I look at it, like with human beings. Our bodies do, for whatever reason, and either we choose to, because we've got exit doors that we can take along the way, and if we choose to go, then we go. But it's not us. We continue on, and as a matter of fact, I've told a story a couple of times about my brother's passing, and how he made it clear to me right after he had passed that he was being received, and it was a great big party, and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, I've lost my brother 2 years ago the next month, and my mother a year ago in July. And it's interesting because I talk to people about them, and psychics about them and stuff, and they've got some really interesting things to say about them. Is it part of what you can do to just think about somebody and they will show up for you, or how does your mediumship work?
Well, my guides usually show up when I'm visualizing. So I start my day, kind of preparing for my day, and I do a couple of visualization practices, and that's usually where they show up, and they kind of, give me the jolt of the day. But my past loved ones, they don't actually present themselves that way. Now, my spirit guides might be them. I don't know. They how my spirit guides present is meaningful for me. They don't show up as my mom or my grandmother, or some other past loved one. They show up as I said, in the elemental realm, and maybe that's because I love that whole scene. As a child, I was a massive, and I still am, a Disney fan and a Harry Potter fan and all of those things. So that's probably why they show up for me that way. But I don't actually see my past loved ones when I'm getting a reading from someone else, either in practice or whatever the case may be. My mom always shows up. She's the first. She steps forward right away, and she's always showing up exactly as I would remember her, in her garden, or baking something, or doing whatever, putting her hand on her hip and tapping her toe, or like whatever whatever she would have been doing to me in my life. But I don't actually see them. I don't see them at all. And so it's nice that you do, and that you can get that sense that they're okay. I think that's wonderful.
Well, it's I do have to say, it's interesting because my mother, well, first of all, I've been doing this for a while, and I did have the show in 2003, like I said, and I had a lot of mediums on, energy workers, energy healers, all of that, and she didn't believe any of that. That none of that existed, and she was a fundamentalist Christian. And so I always have had, in the last year, I've always asked somebody that is a psychic, or a medium, does my mother have anything to say about the fact that it ain't like she thought it was going to be? that it's completely different than and one person said she was surprised that there were so many people there, and what is he doing here, and why is she, you know,
I love that. Yeah.
because yeah, because there isn't really a in my way of thinking, there really isn't a heaven and hell, and that we all come from the same place, we all get to go back to the same place, which is what we call home.
Yeah. And, I also sort of think that, once we're in the next realm, we really don't look like the way we looked as humans anymore, right? We're just light or sparkles or energy or whatever you want to call it. And, uh, you know, we all know each other because it goes back to the fact that we're all the one and we've all been each other. And, so I think that they the loved ones that come through only show up as themselves to be recognized by their humans, right?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
not really how things are up there. So I can just imagine it's probably just like this blissful stream of sparkly sprinkles just floating along. And I think it'll be great. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't want to go there yet, but hey.
Well, I know you probably have done some near death, or people that have had near death experiences, and what they pretty much a lot of them will say, first of all, it's all just nothing but love. It is a wonderful place to be, and they're so happy they don't want to come back
Yeah.
because they recognize that that isn't the end. That's just a continuation, and that their family's going to be there soon enough. And but a lot of times they get sent back, and then they have to, if they've been in an accident and their body's all broken, they have
Yeah,
to
they have to regroup.
they have to regroup and go through all that. But that's great. So in the world of spirit guides, there are 6 things that we wanted to talk about. I knew we'd get to it eventually.
Well, I thought for your audience, it would be helpful for them to know the value of knowing your spirit guides so that if they have not yet encountered them, or if they want to know more about them and they want to go to a medium and discover who their spirit guides are, then they would benefit in knowing the 6 reasons why they should know their spirit guides. And so, if it's okay, I will just start with the first one. And
Let's do.
the first one is that you are never alone. Just as we've been talking about, your guides will be there, guiding you, supporting you, and showing you the way every moment of your life. And I think, for what I see in the world right now, where we are all so desperate for connection that we are looking at social media and falling into the social media rabbit hole and never to emerge for 20 minutes and wonder what happened to that part of our lives. We're looking for connection, but we no longer know how to connect with our fellow people, our fellow humans, because we feel so alone. And so I think that's knowing that you are never alone, that you can always just close your eyes and ask your guide for support and love and guidance, and that they're always there for you. They're just waiting for you to talk to them. They're just waiting for you to ask them to help you, and so they can give you hope, and you can feel that connection again. So that's number one. You're never alone.
I like that one because and that's really true. Now, some people would say, "You mean they're always around at every
Yep.
moment?"
Every moment.
What if I don't want them to be there when I'm in the bathroom?
Too bad.
Too bad, so sad. Well, the way I look at it is like they used to have a body themselves, so they understand bodily functions, bodily needs, and stuff like that. And so it's for them. As an example, your dog. Do you have a dog?
Yes, I do.
When you take your dog out to go potty and go poop, it doesn't bother you in the bit, except when you have to pick up the poop. That always gets me. But it's just a normal part of life, and it's not a big deal. We make it a big deal, but in their world, it's no longer a big deal.
Well, they don't have to worry about that anymore, so maybe it's interesting.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
I
how
had to
you
do
do
that?
that. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, gross.
I never would have thought of that. Wow.
Oh, gosh. Okay, number 2. You will always know the highest and best choice and decision in every situation. Well, if you can call on your spirit guides and you're feeling confused, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not sure which way to go, you can always depend on them to show you the right step, the right next step. They will sprinkle those sparkly breadcrumbs for you to follow, and all you have to do is just know that they're there for your highest and best good.
Absolutely. I concur, Doctor, 100%.
Number 3, if you feel like no one else believes in you or they think you're crazy and no one else wants you to succeed, your spirit guides always do. They always want the highest and best for you, and they always want you to succeed in your life's purpose. And they always want you to achieve the mission that you came to do here in this life. So if you're feeling like no one believes in you, no one knows why you're on this mission or why you want to achieve these things, no one believes you can achieve the goals that you set out for yourself, even if it takes 20 years, your guides are always there supporting you and pushing you along and poking you in the right direction.
You got to remember that on the other side, there is no time. So 20 years is a phenomenon only to us.
You got
For
it.
them, it may
Yeah.
have been like, oh, this is what he wants. Okay, we'll set this up and this will happen.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a really great point. And
Yes.
I think, we as humans, we just are so fixated on this construct of time that we've created, right? And that it makes it very difficult for us to kind of leave that construct aside and just recognize, whatever we want to do will happen. We just have to expect it, and it'll come. And it might be 20 years or it might be longer. We don't know, right?
And please be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it.
And I'm sure many do.
Can I tell you a real quick story
Of
about that?
course.
I after the radio, and I got a job for King County driving a bus, and I did that for 12 years and corrected my financial picture and got everything back on track again. And I had always said I want to do a podcast, I want to do a radio show, I want to go back to doing what I love to do. And so two things. I was driving with my son one day, and I said, there's a 55 plus community, because I'm over 55, that we could go to, and I want to check out what they got as far as housing goes. And I found the perfect place at the right price that I could buy, and it was really easy to do, and everything lined up surprise. Stop me if you've heard this before. Everything lined up just perfectly for me to get this done. And then I was still driving a bus, and then I was moving into my home, and I went to get a lamp. And I have you ever fallen up the stairs?
Yes, with a coffee, no less.
Oh, well, I fell up the stairs, and I mean, I really fell hard, and I tore my rotator cuff on my right arm,
Oh, brother.
and had to have surgery on it. And so I was out of work, and then I was taking care of my son's dog, tripped over the dog, and fell on my other arm while the other one was still broken, or still being healed. And so I had to call 911 and say, "You've probably heard this." And I actually said this. I said, "I'm sure you've heard this before, but I've fallen and I can't get up." And so she sent an ambulance, and they took me away, and I tore my tricep muscle in the other arm, and had to have that surgically repaired. And so so I got disability because I could no longer work. And so it was a little painful, but because I was able to do disability, I now have 800 shows up, and I do this, 5 to 7 to 8 shows a week because I love it, and they set it all up. I am absolutely convinced that they set that whole scenario up so that I could live in a place I can afford while I wasn't working. My income went down, and I could do this. And I'm absolutely convinced that that was by design.
Yeah. And of course, you hear these miracles every day, all day, because this is what you're doing now. So it happened. And the thing about it is that unless you realize that it's divinely guided, that it's a miracle, you might not even recognize, you might not even think to yourself, oh, that's just so awesome, and thank whoever, but so this happens for people all day, every day, and they don't even recognize that their life is being divinely guided, right? And so I think if we can consciously become aware, then our guides really love recognition. They really want to know that that they're helping you. They really want you to thank them so that they can shine even brighter and bring you even more, right? They really love it. They really, really love it. They want to help so much. And when you thank them and when you are grateful and you're in awe of the beauty and the things that are showing up, then I think that's that's what they're there for. They really want you to feel amazing and grateful and good about the things that they're presenting to you.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And because when that happened to me, when I fell a couple of times, I had a choice. I could say, God dang it, I hate this and that, and that. I feel so terrible about it. Matter of fact, when I was at the emergency room after they fixed the second arm, and they were trying to figure out how to put both arms into some sort of a device so that I could keep both arms immobile, and they were looking at me like, shit, I don't know how we're going to get that done. And one of the nurses left, and I could hear her outside saying, oh, that poor man.
It's like you see in the commercials where they've got their arms propped up like this.
Exactly. That's exactly. And see, from my frame of reference, it was, thank God, thank you. You've accomplished what I needed to have done to get to where I want to go. And thank you. Yeah. So we had a long conversation, they and I.
Yes.
And it worked out really well.
Yeah. And they were glad that you noticed, right? They were glad.
Oh, they get credit. The cool thing is they get credit for everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm just doing what they tell me to do.
Right. And that's the beauty of knowing your spirit guides, right? That is the beauty of knowing your spirit guides, is that you just know that everything is the right thing. Everything is the right thing. Even if it doesn't seem like it is. It is.
Right. When you're convinced that how could you guys do this to me, and then but you see, you don't get the what I call the 50,000 foot view, because they see the big picture. We just see the little microcosm that is what our lives are at that very moment.
Right.
So exactly. What number are we on?
Next, number 4. And this is perfect, actually. It's just like we knew what we were doing here, Kevin. If you feel powerless, unsure, confused, turn the problem over to your spirit guides and ask for help. Right? That's right. You just say, okay, guides, really, I don't know what to do here. Help me out. And they'll send you the next sparkly breadcrumb. And that's exactly what you essentially just described perfectly.
That is so true. I know it. There was a time I used to be able to say, I believe that. I don't believe stuff anymore. I know it.
Yeah.
It's true.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Number 5, you have a cosmic manager always at your service to take your order. Place your order with your guides and expect it to be taken care of. And this goes back to our conversation of, it might take in our minds 20 years. It might take a blink of an eye. It might take tripping over the dog, whatever it is, right? Once we've elicited the thought or the energy, it's done. It's taken care of. And so that's number 5. Shall I go on?
Yes, that's
okay.
Which is perfect. We touched on number 5 quite a little bit. So curious to know what number 6 is.
And finally, but not finally, of course, number 6, you have someone to talk about your wildest dreams and someone to help you expand ever further. And this is the best part. I know you know this, but every time something wonderful happens, something more wonderful happens after that. And so, I have crazy dreams. I don't tell anybody about those dreams because they're too crazy for humans to hear, and I don't want to hear their, oh, you're crazy, when I tell them, right? So I just tell my guides, this is, and they send me the exact information I need to execute the next step. It's a miracle. It's just amazing.
And happens all the time.
Yeah.
If you're open to it. Now,
Right.
as an example, I get messages through music. I do not know how they do this. I have no idea how they line it up so perfectly. But if I have a question, if I have a major quandary, if I'm concerned about something, and I turn on the radio, voila, a song that speaks to what I'm thinking about oftentimes appears as the next song on the radio. Don't know how they're pretty good about doing stuff like that, or in a myriad of different ways. They contact you, and they can touch your heart, and they can do it through other people. They can do it through they have infinite ways of getting to you. You just have to be open to it. At least that's my
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I hear a lot of people get the messages through songs. And I get a lot of messages from being out in nature. I'm a self-described nature nut, and that's probably why I channel the elemental realm. So, if I'm out in nature and I'm feeling awestruck by a landscape, or I'm feeling awestruck by being close to the lake, or whatever it is, then that's something coming through, right? There's a message coming through there. And I just, it's just amazing that the expansion is just, it just goes on and on. It's amazing.
I just got the picture. Do you remember? Do you remember the old Disney movie? Snow White.
Yeah, of course.
When she's in the woods, and the birds come up and they sit on her arm, and that was the picture that I had when you
Well, I do love a Disney movie, and I do get a lot of Disney-like downloads. So that's probably why your guides were like, yep.
But I do want to ask you to ask them if I'm doing this show, if I'm on the right track. Can we do that? Can we do that real quick?
Of course you're on the right track. Yeah, of course you're on the right track. The one thing that they have just, they've poked at me a couple of times, and I'm sure you're probably already on this path, but there's a whole new conversation around walk-ins. And I don't know whether you've had any people on the show who are self-proclaimed walk-ins, but I've heard that a couple times since I've been talking to you. So maybe that's something that you would be interested in researching and knowing more about.
Well, there was a gentleman in 2003 that came into the show, and he said that he was a walk-in. But then I have trouble reconciling what happens to the original soul that's there, and where did his soul come from, and why did they switch? Was that an agreement they made ahead of time?
It's all part of that 80%. From my perspective, that's all part of that 80%, is that they've already made that agreement, that's already going to happen. And that one soul is going to have a certain portion of time to do what they need to do, and then someone else is going to come in. And I think what I've read about it is that there are just so many multidimensional beings clamoring to have a chance to come to Earth and be part of this human experience during this time of ascension, or whatever it is that we're doing, growing spiritually as humans and other beings, that's how it's kind of going down now, is that they're kind of swapping out in the same body.
I just had the
Of course you did.
Of course I did. I just had the impression it's like, because I used the car reference earlier.
Yes, and that was a great reference. I really like that, by the way.
but it's like somebody's buying a used car.
Exactly.
So it takes two
Exactly
people.
it.
You have a brand new car that you have, you drive it for a number of years, and then you decide you don't want it or you want to upgrade or whatever. So you sell the car, get out of the car, somebody else buys the car and gets in the car.
Yep. Exactly.
That's
And then they
that's
take off in your car. Yeah.
yeah, which is now their car.
Right.
And you get to go do some other stuff that you want to do because it makes sense because a lot of times the body is perfectly good, it still works just fine, but the soul that has accomplished what they came here to do, and rather than eliminate the body so that they can go, they just check out and somebody else checks in.
I think that's right. And that's what I've understood in my little bit of research about it, because it's been kind of coming up for me as well.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me, as much as anything else makes perfect sense to me. It's like it's one of those things on Vicky that who knows, but anything can happen.
Yeah, agreed. And we just have to be open and know that it's all for our highest good.
And we're moving into a special time. I really think that we're entering into a period that is going to be really interesting, don't you?
Yes, I really do. And I think that's why my awakening happened in 2020, because it had to happen then so that I could be on the right track, be on the right purpose, the right path now, so that I could help other people who are poised to open to their own gifts, and allow them to recognize that they do have gifts, that they can use them, and that they can help others with their own gifts as well. And I think that's why it all happened for me the way it did.
I tell you, I could talk to you for hours. As a matter of fact, I have already. But I want to get the class out, the Becoming a Medium class. When is it? When are you going to do that, and how can they access that?
Well, I am going to be doing it in the fall. I have not yet finalized the time or details, so now is the perfect time if you're interested in learning to become a medium. This will be the learning to become a medium, so channeling loved ones for other people, and of course, if you're like Kevin, your own. And then you can help other people, have closure, understand that their loved ones are all around them, supporting them. And so if people want to get on the wait list, they can do that through my website, www.vickymcgrath.ca, VICKYMCGRATH.ca. And there's like you basically have to sign up for my email list, and then I'll have you on the wait list, and then I can let you know when the class is coming up, and then you can sign up and join me for that class when it comes out. And then after that, I will be teaching a spirit guides class, so meet your spirit guides class, and also and further on in that, I will be doing a discover your life purpose class. So if people are on my list, then I know that they're interested, then I can keep them apprised.
Oh, very good. And somebody who, by the way, that is exploring her spiritual gifts, her name is Kayla May, and she just gave us a thumbs up. And she is a budding superstar, but she's got a child and just had a baby, and has had some tragedy in her life. So, but I just wanted to reach out to her and say thank you for listening, Kayla.
Yeah, great. So nice to have people here.
It is indeed. We've got a couple of hearts and a couple of thumbs up and stuff. So that's really cool. And I want to thank you for being here. And you're welcome to come back on this show anytime that you choose.
Well, I thank you. It is just great to have you doing this show and being, the guiding light for your audience to learn and to expand and grow and to know all of the wonderful things that are available to them.
It is truly a remarkable life that we all get to have here. And if you choose, you can do anything that you want to. A lot of times we get bogged down, but and that's why it's important to go talk to someone like Vicky, who can help you get back on the path that you designed for yourself, and your soul guides are charged with following your design to completion, so that you will live the life that you choose to live, so that you don't have to repeat the same things over and over and over.
Yes, definitely. Those guides want you to progress.
So you don't have to repeat the same stuff over and over, because you don't get to remember it in between lives, and so you start all over again, and you get to do the same stuff again, and so it would be better. You'd be better served to grow.
Agreed.
Yes, and Vicky McGrath, thank you so much for being here. Go to our website again, which is www.vickymcgrath.ca, and sign up. You can also test your intuition, and she's got all kinds of stuff there for you to look at.
I
So
do. Thank you.
So before we go, I want to give you a moment between you and the audience. Those people that are listening now and that will be listening in the future, I'd like you to be able to tell them anything that you would like them to know.
Well, I think what I would just like to say is, listen to the episode and listen to those 6 tips and recognize the conversation between Kevin and I. It was spontaneous, right? This was not pre-scripted. This was not predetermined. Kevin had no idea what I was going to talk about today until I came on to the show. So recognize how aligned we are in our guides, in our thoughts, in our progress and our path, and know that that is possible for you, and that you merely have to open up and recognize that all of your guides are there for you, guiding you every step of the way, and you only need to open your mind and love to them, and they're there for you.
I want to thank you again. And by the way, my gift and how I utilize, rather than being a medium or a psychic or an energy worker, my gift is that I can carry on a conversation like this, ask good questions, keep it going, keep it informative. And that's what they put me on the planet here to do, which is why they gave me I had nothing to do with having this voice, by the way. I didn't learn it, and nobody taught it to me. But I've got it. And also, they gave me the experiences that I need to make this work.
Right.
And it's so that is a gift. All of this for me is a gift from God, or the
100%.
universe,
yeah,
or the source, or whatever term you'd like to put it. I tend to think that God is too restrictive, but that's just me.
A conversation for another day.
Yes, a whole nother one. So, by the way, at 4:00, I'm going to do a show on KKNW. I'm going to have 13 people on the show. I don't know how that's going to happen. So I'm leaving.
Good luck.
Boy, no kidding. I'm leaving that to make it so it's like unintelligible. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Kevin. It was very much fun.
If you'll wait right there, I will be right back. Hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be